All right, let's dive right into our really fascinating puzzle. We all know India as this powerhouse of science and technology, right? But at the same time, inside its clinics, something else is happening. Millions of people are turning away from modern, evidence-based medicine and embracing traditional systems like Ayurveda and homeopathy. So, what on earth is going on?
And that's the big question, isn't it? Allopathy, which is just what we call modern medicine, is supposed to be the global gold standard. So when you see a huge number of people in a nation of 1.4 billion choosing to go a different route, you know it's not just some fringe trend. It's pointing to a much, much deeper issue that we really need to get our heads around.
So the first thing to get is that for most people, this isn't about being anti-science. Not at all. It's way more complicated. This whole shift is being driven by this powerful 1-2 punch. There are factors literally pushing people away from the modern medical system, and at the same time, there are things pulling them toward these alternatives. So let's start with the push.
Okay, so the push factors. What is it about modern healthcare in India that's making people want to look somewhere else?
Well, this is pretty staggering. Only 31% of the entire healthcare workforce in India are allopathic doctors. Just think about that. It creates this incredible scarcity, especially outside of the big cities, leaving this massive gap in care. And, the healthcare market, it hates a vacuum. And this chart really shows you the consequence of that scarcity. The public clinics for modern medicine are just totally overwhelmed. They're seeing 3, sometimes even 6 times more patients than their traditional counterparts. By the way, those traditional systems are all grouped together under a government ministry called Ayush. That's Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, and Homeopathy. The modern system is just drowning. Now, this table tells the story of what it's actually like on the ground. You can see modern medicine, allopathy, is handling a massive 83% of patients. But look at the hidden cost of that volume. When doctors are that swamped, consultations can be just a few minutes long. There's almost no time for real human connection. It can feel really cold, really impersonal. And that feeling of not really being heard, that's one of the biggest things pushing people out the door. So if the cracks in the modern system are the push, then what's the pull? What is it about these alternative systems that's just so appealing to so many people? Well, for starters, the roots here are deep. We are talking about systems that are woven into the very fabric of Indian history, culture, and even national pride. Ayurveda goes back to ancient Vedic texts. Homeopathy got a royal endorsement way back in the 1800s. And more recently, in 2014, the government itself created the Ministry of Ayush, giving these systems official state-backed legitimacy. This is not a fringe movement, it's an institution. But there's a huge psychological reason too, and it's wired right into us. For pretty much all of human history, our survival depended on trusting stories from people in our community, not looking at abstract data. So when we're faced with a health crisis, our brains naturally downplay the cold, hard facts and give way more weight to personal stories. A story from your neighbor you trust, well, that can feel a whole lot more real than a stack of clinical trial results. And this quote just nails it. There's actually a name for this. It's called anecdotal dominance. When you're scared, when you're desperate for hope, the story of that one person who was supposedly cured by a traditional remedy, that can easily feel more powerful than a doctor's scientific explanation. It all comes down to trust and the power of a good story. And this is the promise that pulls so many people in. Modern medicine can sometimes feel like it's just focused on the disease, on the one thing that's wrong. But Ayush systems offer this holistic vision. They promise to treat the entire person, body, mind, and spirit, not just the symptom. And for a patient, that feels incredibly empowering. It makes them feel seen. But this pull towards all things natural and ancient has a very modern digital twist to it, and a darker side, where the line between wellness and genuine danger can get pretty blurry. For example, take the Satvic Movement. It's this hugely popular online wellness community. It promotes this idealized, pure lifestyle based on ancient ideas. And it even divides foods into categories like pure, stimulating, or dull. It's super appealing because it promises a return to this simpler, cleaner way of living. Okay, but here's where that promise of purity just crashes into a shocking reality. Scientific studies on some of these commercially sold Ayurvedic products have found, frankly, alarming levels of toxic heavy metals. One study found lead in 65% of its samples. Another found mercury in 38%. We're not talking about harmless herbs here. We're talking about actual poisons. And this tension, it's not happening in the shadows. It recently just exploded into this huge public battle.
a company called Patanjali made these really bold claims about curing diseases that modern medicine considers incurable. That led to a massive showdown with the Indian Medical Association that went all the way to the Supreme Court. The court actually forced the company to issue a public apology, which really highlights this ongoing high-stakes fight between these two worlds. So, after all that, where does this leave us? Well, to really understand what's happening, we have to look past individual beliefs and try to diagnose the system itself.
And this really gets to the heart of it. This is probably the most important takeaway. For so many people, choosing an alternative medicine isn't some irrational rejection of science. It can actually be a completely logical, pragmatic choice when the scientific option is too expensive to afford, too far away to access, or just too impersonal to feel like you're actually getting care. The turn to tradition is being fueled by the failures of the modern system just as much as anything else.
So, what's the path forward? Well, for modern medicine to truly win back the trust of everyone, it has to do more than just be scientifically right. It has to actually be better. And that means improving accessibility, making sure it's affordable, and maybe most importantly, providing humane, patient-centered care that makes people feel heard.
And that's the question we're ultimately left with. It's a huge challenge, and not just for India, but really for healthcare systems all over the world. Because at the end of the day, the best, most advanced medicine on the planet is completely useless if people can't or won't use it. And bridging that gap, well, that's the real challenge.